No, man, the video's almost done. I just gotta do some shooting and the editing, and that'll be it. It'll probably take me like 2 days tops. It won't take me too long. Yeah. Hey, man, Mashad, I tell you, I am so fucking excited about this event in Chicago. I mean, I can't believe that we're doing this, getting everybody together. There's gonna be so many people there that I want to meet and work with. We're gonna get so much shit done. It's gonna be awesome. Huh? What do you mean everything's already booked? What do you mean? I joined the site too late. What? You already booked the tickets and rooms, so I can't go? Hey guys, welcome back to Red Right to Left. You know guys, I love manga. If I didn't, then I wouldn't be doing this show, obviously. But one of the things that I really appreciate about the medium is that there's so much variety to it. Now, most people are really only familiar with manga that are directed at young readers, which I guess makes sense considering that shonen manga make up about half of all manga circulation in Japan, and most of the series that make it to the US are shonen. But there are a lot of series that are directed at older readers. Seinen manga, for example, are directed at adult men, and they're pretty successful in their own right. They tend to deal with darker, more mature themes than shonen do. Some of the more recognizable seinen series are Chobits, Oh My Goddess, Hellsing, and probably the most famous of all, Trigun. Even Cowboy Bebop, which is originally anime, is considered a seinen series. In general, as a reader and a reviewer of manga, I find this variety to be a very good thing because it gives me a lot of different things to read and to talk about. However, because there are so many different target audiences for these series, not all of them are appropriate for all audiences because of the mature content that they may contain. Therefore, I cannot in good conscience do full reviews of some of the series that are out there, including some of the more mainstream ones. A lot of the very violent and sexual series are very well known. This video is dedicated to several of the series out there that contain so much mature content that if I did full videos of them, I would never be able to post them on the site. For your enjoyment, I now present 7 of the most sinful manga series out there. Number 7. Any and all hentai. Yes, I actually have to explicitly refuse hentai on this list. You might think that that's unnecessary, but really, I can't be too safe with this one after having watched a few of Sage's Masterpiece fanfic theater videos. So, if you feel like this choice is a cop-out, get over it. If you're relieved by this choice, you can stop being paranoid now. If you're disappointed by this choice... dude, just what the hell? Hentai, making Rule 34 possible one disturbing image at a time. Number 6. My Balls by Harada Shigemitsu and Seguchi Takahiro. No, I'm not making a joke. The series is titled My Balls. Here's the plot in a nutshell, no pun intended. The Queen of Hell has been sealed away, but for an entire month the seal keeping her imprisoned will be vulnerable to attacks by demons, who will attempt to free her and thus doom the world. Now, by dumb luck, the seal ends up in the testicles of the series protagonist, Kota, so now Kota must avoid ejaculating or else the world will be destroyed. I think of this as the product of one of those premises that sounds good because of its strangeness, but when you execute it just doesn't turn out very well. A lot of people find the series funny, but I don't really see much in it. As you're probably able to guess at this point, the manga's chock full of sexual humor, as in every single chapter Kota manages to find himself on the verge of dooming the planet because he just can't keep it down. Though to be fair, most of the time he's being sexually assaulted by demons like the Lesser Devil Elise, who starts things off by giving him a tail job. Ugh, this is from the first frickin' chapter. By the way, how can people not classify this as a hentai? Sure, everything's pixelated out, but you can still see it all. It's completely ridiculous. Elise actually ends up getting scared off and later becomes Kota's sidekick, but the plot developments of this story aren't exactly memorable. Now, like I said, I personally don't like the series. I find it unfunny and really monotonous. But it's grown fairly popular and has even gotten its own Wikipedia article, thus becoming something else that the internet has to be ashamed of. With that said, let's just move on to number 5. Parasyte by Iwaki Hitoshi. This series features your typical alien possession story. Spores fall from space and give birth to these worm-like parasites, which can dig into human skulls and replace the brain, thereby taking over the body. As if that weren't enough to make this an R-rated equivalent to Animorphs, the aliens can also change the shape of the head, making it flexible as rubber or strong as steel, Predictably, this results in a lot of outmatched humans getting butchered. In fact, it happens so often that occasionally the death scenes are funnier than they are gruesome. The series' protagonist is Shinichi, a teenager who was attacked by a parasite that ends up in his arm rather than his skull. The alien is forced to develop a symbiotic relationship with Shinichi and names itself Migi, the Japanese word for right, as it acts as his right hand. Migi still has the ability to transform Shinichi's arm into any shape, and so the two of them are able to fight with other parasites. But a lot of the violence in this series isn't related to the actual fight between humans and aliens, it's just random and pointless, like when this guy gets mauled by a lion. And it doesn't help that at one point Miki senses Shinichi's crush on a girl and decides to turn his arm into a giant dick. And the worst of it all is this guy. Fuck it, I'm not even gonna insinuate what he does. Find out for yourself if you're feeling really brave. Parasyte, because Invasion of the Body Snatchers was for pussies. Number 4. Franken, Fran by Kikitsu Katsuhisa. My god, just holy shit. Sorry for the incoherence of this introduction, but well, okay. Imagine a scientist creating a sort of Frankenstein's monster that ended up as a cute and intelligent girl instead of a lumbering ogre. Now imagine the girl were capable of performing medical miracles through surgery, but she had no regard for the Hippocratic Oath and she lived in a universe with a sick sense of justice. Now imagine her performing disturbing graphic operations that tend to leave her quote-unquote patients as horrific monstrosities that pretty often would just be better off dead. Now stop imagining, because that's what this series is about. Seriously, a lot of weird and disturbing shit happens in this manga. I think the worst is in chapter 2. Well, you see, it seemed like everything was going to turn out okay for once, and Admittedly, the series has a dark sense of humor at times, like when the scientist who created Fran performs surgery on her and she treats it like they're having sex. But still, if you have a weak constitution, I strongly warn you against reading the series. Franken, Fran. Mary Shelley wishes she'd written something this scary. Leaving that behind us with no regrets, let's move on to number 3. Elfen Lied by Okamoto Rin. The beginning of this series is truly memorable, and by itself managed to earn the anime adaptation an infamous reputation. We open in a government facility deep underground where a humanoid monster of great destructive potential is being kept. The creature has psychic abilities that manifest in the form of translucent arms that can manipulate and cut through anything within their range. The first chapter is all about the creature escaping the facility and starting up the highest body count out of any series on this list. But what is this thing? An alien? A demon? A Pokemon? No, it's a naked pink-haired girl with cute little horns named Lucy. Yeah, get used to the pointless nudity if you want to read this series, because I think that at some point it just gets to be so common that it can't even really qualify as fan service anymore. It's that sort of content that makes Elfen Lied unreviewable, but the violence and nudity wasn't all that shocking in and of itself. It was all of that content when juxtaposed with tons of light humor and cuteness. Take for example this secretary who trips over her own feet twice in one scene, and then gets her head ripped off by Lucy while she's making her escape in the first chapter. I felt bad for someone who died in the first chapter, seriously, but Elfen Lied does that. It makes you feel bad for any character with a name that dies. And there are a lot of them. Elfen Lied, let the bodies hit the floor, one piece at a time. Number 2. Gantz by Oku Hiroya. This series has a fairly interesting beginning because it starts off with the two main characters, Kurono Kei and Masaru Kato, being run over by a train and dying. How anticlimactic. Well, actually, instead of dying, they end up in this room with a bunch of other people and a mysterious black sphere, a semi-omniscient being named Gantz. Now, Gantz is a weird one. He communicates in NetSpeak and is very rude and apparently immature, but he also claims to hold complete control over the characters' lives, and there's not a whole lot to prove him wrong. Now as a whole, the series is much like a manga adaptation of a typical first-person shooter, as Gantz sends the characters on missions to kill aliens. He provides them with strength-enhancing suits and powerful weapons, and the characters earn various amounts of points for killing different types of aliens, with the final goal being 100 points when they are allowed to go free. However, earning 100 points is easier said than done, as even the weakest of these aliens prove to be horribly intimidating bastards. On any given mission, very few characters tend to survive, and I'll give the series credit for not being afraid of character death. As you can probably tell from these panels, the characters don't really tend to die in pleasant manners either. Gantz also has a ton of straight-up pornographic material. The first female character shows up completely naked, there are various sex scenes throughout, and almost every single chapter includes a non-sequitur pinup at the beginning. Let me put it this way, this is one of the milder ones. I've never really thought that over-the-top violence or nudity really detracted from a series' overall value, but in this case it seems to just be there to distract you from the horrible writing. Gantz's fairly interesting premise is just being wasted. Overall the fight scenes are cool, but mostly it just seems like the Doom comic with none of the humor. It reeks of squandered potential. As we've gone through this list, we've looked at some really perverse, vulgar, horrific things. But what could possibly be at the top of this list? Well, the answer may surprise you. Now, the number one sinful manga, Koe de Oshigoto by Kono Azure. This is a manga about a girl named Kana, who turns 16 at the beginning of the story and is promptly asked by her older sister to help out at work. Upon her arrival, Kana is shocked to learn that her sister works at a company that produces hentai games. And then she actually asks Kana to voice one of the characters in the next game. That's right guys, this manga is about a 16-year-old girl's journey to become a hentai voice actress. This series is hilarious. It's fucking great. It has all the typical manga training cliches, except that they're related to voice acting in hentai games. Kana even has to go through rigorous training to get used to talking dirty. She even discovers her hidden innate talent for voice acting, which is related to her knack for being able to imagine the scene around her. However, I just can't review this manga, no matter how funny I find it. Though it really pains me to say that, and I can't really remember when I first made that decision. Maybe it was when Kana first tried playing a hentai game, or the first lines of dirty talk, or learning to simulate fellatio noises, or bringing herself to an orgasm with the power of her imagination. All else failing, that last one probably clinched it. All in all, the series isn't too explicit. It'd probably get an R rating if it were a movie. I highly recommend this to anyone who can get a laugh out of sexual humor, as all of the content that makes it unreviewable also makes it a truly enjoyable read. So that does it for the list, but join me next time when we look into a series that truly deserves to be sent to hell. Until then, forget what they taught you in school, always read right to left.